Yo, what's going on, guys? My name is Master. Welcome back to another Overwatch League news video, and today we got more releases to talk about. The big stuff, of course, the releases. It's great. It's great. More releases. So, we got Guangzhou Charge, we got some Dallas Fuel, and we got some Paris stuff. We got lots of stuff to talk about in this video. Quite juicy, some would say. So, let's go ahead and jump right into it. The Guangzhou Charge have announced 4 releases in the past day. We have Mykaylee, Kariv, Jihun, and Mandu. These are all expected releases from their team. Mykaylee was one of the most hyped up players coming into the season, and if you watch the season, you know that that was not the case. He was, unfortunately, and I don't like to ever say this, but he was one of the worst hitscan players and one of the worst rookies in the league. That sounds really mean, but that was the case. He's not one of the greatest players this season, especially not in the hitscan area. So Mykaylee was definitely underwhelming when it came to all the hype that was surrounding him coming into this season. And like I said, underwhelming. Nothing much really else to say about that. His Widow play was not the greatest. His Kariv play was not the greatest. All around, everything he played was not up to par to the APAC region. He was not able to compete along the high tier hit scan players and just DPS players in that APAC region. So Mykaylee had a hard time, and they ended up putting Eileen back in and using Choi Suwon more. And we saw that was the dominant DPS duo moving forward for the Charge. And Mykaylee definitely held it back a little bit. This sounds very mean, but it was the case. Now on to Jihun, also expected. I was still surprised they signed him when in the offseason in general. He's just kind of a ball player, always has been a ball player. He can still play like Ryan occasionally, but other than that, he's just a ball player. And moving into Overwatch 2, you don't really need a one specialist tank right now, especially if how we're kind of experimenting things. Maybe we will need a ball specialist at some point, but as it stands right now, when it comes to Overwatch 2, I don't think you want to have that risk of someone on your roster who only plays like one tank. Obviously, they still have Ryu. Ryo's still on the roster. Who knows if he'll get replaced or not. But I think it's safe to keep your bet and your money all on at least 2 tanks that you know are very flexible, which is Krong and Ryo right now. I think Jihun sitting there, mostly playing ball, could hurt them whenever they're playing in the match in Overwatch 2 and they need to switch to something, and Jihun's just only on ball or Ryan. Let's say you need a Rissa or a Diva. He could hold it back a little bit, so Jihun being released makes sense. I mean, if there ever is a time for a ball specialist, I mean, hey, he's there. Now on to Mandu. This one was underwhelming for many people, including myself. You know, he was really, really hyped up back last season for the NYXL. Ended up being benched all year. Even though I predicted that to be the case, I still expected Mandu to come in on the Charge and have that hype that he had coming into the NYXL and bringing that really good main sport play that we've heard. I didn't really see that much in Contenders, but I'm just going off of the word people have said that watch them all the time in Contenders, saying Mandu was great, and that was not the case for the Guangzhou Charge. Obviously, he played in NYXL for a little bit, but they weren't the greatest performances because it made sense. He just kind of jumped into the game, didn't have that much scrim time. He did not look the greatest, and it made sense at the time, but coming into the Charge, we expected him to be a little bit better, and ended up not being the case for the Charge, and just underwhelming basically the entire season. Obviously, every player does have moments, and Mandu did have some moments. Now into Kariv, I would say this does suck to see him get released, but also kind of makes sense. He was also underwhelming this season. He has been up and down a lot. He's been very inconsistent these past 2 years. But Kariv, I think this was his last shot to like really keep himself on a team right now. I do think Kariv still has that potential. I really do. I think Kariv, if anything, shouldn't be released from the Charge. If anything, I think he could still stay on this team and they could somewhat build around him for next season. I still think Kariv is very Overwatch League level, and I still think he has that high tier potential that we know he has back from the past in season 1 and season 2. He didn't show it that much last year, but on the Charge, I think he still had some moments where he could show that he is top tier. But once again, might as well just fully change the roster at that point if it's not working. But I do think they could have at least kept Kariv for next season, but whatever works for them. Now let's go over the Dallas Fuel, and nothing too shocking here. All Dallas Fuel has done is talked about the people they are signing back, and it's the obvious 5: Fearless, Doha, Filter, Hanbin, and Sparkle. Nothing too surprising here. They needed to keep these players in general. They still have top tier talent. They can still even win the league whenever they sign their new players. This is still a winning roster. Yes, they got close to it this year against the Shanghai Dragons, everything they went against here, you know, even the Atlanta Reign. I still think these are some winning pieces that could help you win the Overwatch League. All they need to do now is sign 1 or 2 more players and they will be set and ready to go. We know they're looking for a DPS player, and they also need to sign 1 more support player. That is guaranteed at some point. Could be Slime, could be someone down later in the road. I hope it's not Mandu. Nothing too shocking here. Like I said already, these are great pieces. Dallas Fuel needs to keep them. They're going to upgrade after this, so nothing too crazy here. They're fantastic players. Now onto the Paris Eternal. Nothing too shocking here. Once again, there's some players they signed back and a head coach The head coach for the Paris Eternal is going to be JMac. He is getting promoted, and Paris Eternal are keeping Daan, Kaan, Naga, and DriDro. Also, nothing too surprising here. I kind of expected JMac to get the promotion of head coach because of how much JMac has kind of been under the radar, it feels like, in a way. The people are aware of it, but some people still aren't aware of it, of how good of a coach JMac has looked so far. I mean, he first got into coaching not that long ago and helped the team of contenders, brought them up, joins the Paris Eternal. Next thing you know, also helps Paris Eternal a little bit with Get Amazed. So JMac has potential, and maybe he was the one doing a lot of the coaching as soon as he joined and what helped Paris Eternal go up in the standings too. So maybe that's why they have promoted JMac to head coach. And if that's not the case, then it's not the case, and they can still sign more coaches throughout the season because there is more coaches that want to be a head coach, and we'll get to that near the end of the video. We talk about the Shanghai Dragons later that talk about potential head coaches, but JMac is the head coach right now for the Paris Eternal. And when it comes to the 4 other players, DriDro, Naga, Kaan, and Daan, nothing too shocking here. I will say it was weird watching Daan his entire time throughout the Overwatch League. He really started at the start of the season really kind of rough, not one of the best made tanks, and as time has gone on, he got better and better, and now it makes sense that he's on the team. I still think there could be a potential upgrade here over Daan, but if they keep Daan starting position, I think that's fine. I still think though they could find an upgrade, but what works works. But everyone else here makes sense. DriDro, one of the better main sports for this team. Kaan, still one of the better flex sports in the league all around. Same thing goes with Naga. So makes sense to keep these players. I do wish they still kept Onigod, but there could be things there behind the scenes that we are not aware of. But these are good pieces to keep. I still want to see a main tank upgrade if anything, but I still think Daan could be fine. Nothing too crazy here with the Paris Eternal moves we kind of expected, at least I expected from the Paris Eternal to keep these 4 and also promote JMac. Now onto the Hangzhou Spark. We got some moves later in the night. It was Hangzhou Spark releasing U4, IDK, Mika, Coldest, and Seominsoo. Sucks to see a player like IDK go. He's been there since day 1. Also sucks to see Seominsoo go as well. And we have Mika and Coldest getting a release, which makes sense. And I think those guys have potential to go somewhere else too. So when it comes to U4, like I say every time when it comes to coaches releases, I don't have that much to say about them. They're behind the scenes. I don't know what they're doing their entire time. So if it's a move that they made, it's a move that they made. I don't have that much word into it to talk about. Now when it comes to the players, IDK, sucks to see him go. He's been there since day 1. One of the more solid main sports for years. I would say this past year was kind of rough for the Spark support line, but I still think IDK just really well known in season 2 and season 3 of his Lucio play. When it comes to Mika and Coldest, I mean, Mika did his job in season 3. He came in over IDK a couple of times. He only played 2 games this season, so nothing much too crazy to talk about there. Same thing goes with Coldest. Didn't play a lot. I think Coldest has some of the most potential out of almost any Overwatch League player that I can think of right now. He's up there. There's definitely way more, but as it stands making this video, Coldest has a lot of potential, and I love to see him go on a different team. Maybe like the Hunters at some point, maybe the LA Valiant if they stay on a full Chinese roster. I don't think that's going to be the case though, but if they do stay full Chinese roster on the LA Valiant, I think Coldest could go there and dominate. Coldest has so much potential, and sucks we have not seen that yet. And Seominsoo, he actually played a handful amount of times for the Spark this season, and they were all right performances. They weren't top tier. They were pretty solid all around. They were all right. Who knows? Maybe he'll still stay in the Overwatch League. Maybe he won't. We'll see what happens. Teams are doing some rebuilds. Some teams are still looking for a DPS player. He could go to Dallas Fuel. Who knows? Now let's talk about some leaks coming from the man Halo of Thoughts once again. So the first thing we're going to talk about is the Los Angeles Gladiators, and nothing too surprising here as well. If you guys did not see, Halo of Thoughts tweeted out that DPay is looking to stay on the Los Angeles Gladiators. They're going to keep DPay. And the second one, Birdring, is looking to retire. Now, when it comes to Birdring, this has been expected multiple times now. You know, this isn't the first time where we expect him to retire. And at the start of season 3, there was rumors that he was going to retire. Didn't retire. Kept through it. Stuck with it. Same thing goes with season 4. He was going to retire and didn't. So is he actually going to do it this time? Who knows? At the start of every season so far, after 2, he's been saying he wants to retire, or there's been hints at retirement, and hasn't been the case. But he is expected to announce his retirement at some point, and this one seems a little bit more likely. If I'm correct, this is the first time Halo of Thoughts has actually announced of a leak of Birdring retiring. So this seems like it's more likely going to happen. So expect Birdring to retire at some point. Does suck to see him go if this is the case. And if he does officially announce his retirement, I'll talk about that a little bit more. I'm not going to talk about it that much off of the leak right here until it's official. Now, when it comes to DP, I'm not so shocked on this one. I mean, DP, this was his year to somewhat prove himself, and he kind of did it this year. This is one of their better years they've had in a while. They won a tournament. They had a good year all around, pretty consistent too. Good rotations with players all around. This was a good year for DP. He had to prove himself this year if he wanted to stay on the Gladiators, and that ended up being the case. He found players, helped the team out a little bit more. He got results, and they stayed in the league a while, and they were definitely a scary team through playoffs and the entire league all around. So DP proved himself. Makes sense that they kept him, but we'll see what the future holds for the Gladiators. Now we have the Vancouver Titans. There's two tweets here from Halo of Thoughts that are kind of similar, especially the second one. But you guys did not see, Halo of Thoughts leaks that Vancouver Titans are doing a full rebuild. And on top of this, he also tweets out that Chongsik is looking to get released as well. Kind of makes sense though with the second tweet about them looking for a full rebuild. And this is needed, absolutely needed. After the past 2 years, it's been a dumpster fire. It's been completely awful. Looks like there's been no care taken into this team the past 2 years. And it looks like they now want to actually care for this next upcoming season, because maybe it's different now. They see Overwatch 2 like, hey, maybe it'll be a little bit different. We find new players. And it could be the case, maybe not, but they definitely need the rebuild no matter what. Do I think they could keep some pieces? Sure. I think they could keep Fried. That's it, really. I mean, who knows what they're going to do? I feel like they may keep 1 or 2 players, but even then, full rebuild. Do a full rebuild. Don't keep anyone from the previous team. But when it comes to Chongsik, I saw this tweet on Twitter and I didn't mind it, actually. You know, someone said Chongsik on Philadelphia Fusion. And I don't mind that because Chongsik did play on Fusion University in the past. And why not? Why not see him go to the Philadelphia Fusion? Will it be great? Who knows? I mean, I don't know. Will he do good? I mean, potentially under the right coaching. Besides those players that he has around him, he could do good. You know, he could be great. But do you want to take the risk? Who knows? With Overwatch 2 coming around, who knows? That's what I'm saying. Who knows? Now let's talk about the Shanghai Dragons. And this goes to stuff I was talking about earlier with coaching. And Shanghai Dragons has announced the releases of Jfeel and Dongsu. The reason they are now being released is because they want to go into head coaching. Sucks to see coaches go from the Shanghai Dragons after they just won 2. So losing coaches definitely hurts for the Dragons, but for these two specifically, it's what they want to do. It's what they want to do. They want to go head coach now. Maybe look for some positions around the Overwatch League. Who knows? Maybe they may take JMac's spot on Paris Eternal. Maybe they may take some other spots throughout the entire league, because there's potential for that. There could be coaches that don't want to coach anymore, and they come take that head coach spot. I mean, Jfeel has coached before. He has coached London Spitfire back in the day, back in season 1 and 2. Dongsu, he has not done any head coaching yet. He's been an assistant coach for the Shanghai Dragons. He was going to be assistant coach for the LA Valiant before they went full Chinese roster. So we'll see what goes on with these two. I mean, Jfeel already has that experience of head coaching. He's now been under Moon in Shanghai Dragons. This could be the move for these two, but we'll see what goes on later in the future. Now, one final thing to end off the video, and it's something I kind of expected, but not fully, is that Striker is LFT. He is back. He wants to play in the Overwatch League once again, and he's ready. That's the tweet, LFT out, ready to play again. So he's back. Who knows? Would this guy be on Dallas Fuel? If that's the case, think about it. They still need that hit scan DPS player. I mean, yeah, Sparkle can play Tracer, but who do you want to play Tracer? Striker or Sparkle? Striker could dominate on the Dallas Fuel beside Doha or Sparkle. So if Dallas Fuel signed this man, I think you're asking for a W. But Striker is being looked at by every team in the Overwatch League right now. I promise you that. Almost every at this point. Maybe not Shanghai Dragons because they already won. They have their pieces they needed. But Striker definitely going to be in the Overwatch League as fast as possible. Every team's looking at him right now, I guarantee you. So that's going to be it for the Overwatch League news video. If you guys want to stay more in tune to Overwatch League news and Overwatch League stuff in general, don't forget to subscribe down below. Also, don't forget to join my Discord down below as well. Don't forget to follow my Twitter and my Twitch. And don't forget to hit that bell. And don't forget to leave a like, comment, and subscribe down below. And I'll see you guys on the next one.